Hey, sports card fans, it's John Wade Boggs fan. Hope you're all doing well. I'm back with another video in which I choose my top 5 favorite cards of a particular player. At the end of last week's video, I spun the wheel of names and it landed on Fergie Jenkins. For those of you not too familiar with his career, Fergie Jenkins originally signed with the Philadelphia Phillies in 1962, but didn't find great success until the Chicago Cubs took him out of the bullpen and converted him into a starting pitcher 5 years later. In his first year as a starter in 1967, the right-hander notched 20 wins to go with a 2.80 ERA and 236 strikeouts. He tied for second place in the voting for the Cy Young Award. The following year, he again won 20 games, had an ERA of 2.63, and struck out 260. From 1967 to 1972, Jenkins won 20 or more games each year, averaging 306 innings pitched. He also threw 140 complete games over that span. Fergie's best single-game performance came in the 1967 All-Star Game, when he struck out 6 of the top sluggers in the American League: Harmon Killebrew, Tony Conigliaro, Mickey Mantle, Jim Fregosi, Rod Carew, and Tony Oliva. His best year came in 1971, when Jenkins was the National League Cy Young Award winner. He went 24-13, throwing a complete game in 30 of his 39 starts, walked 37, and struck out 263 in 325 innings. Jenkins also became the first Cubs pitcher and the first Canadian to win the Cy Young. In 1974, with the Texas Rangers, he had a career-high 25 wins and became the first baseball player to win the Lou Marsh Trophy, an award given each year to Canada's top athlete. He was inducted into the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame in 1987. Jenkins led his league in wins 2 times, complete games 4 times, and had the fewest walks per 9 innings in the league 5 times. The right-hander was the first pitcher to end his career with at least 3,000 strikeouts and fewer than 1,000 walks. Jenkins was elected to the Hall of Fame in 1991. So to narrow down the choices that I had to select my top 5 favorite Fergie Jenkins cards, I went with the PSA Basic Topps Set Registry Checklist. It's 19 cards from his 1966 Topps rookie card to his final Topps card, the 1984 Topps card. So here is where I would love all of you to participate as well. In the description of this video, I'll have a link to the PSA Basic Topps Set Registry Checklist. And from those 19 cards, would love to know in the comments which are your top 5 favorite Fergie Jenkins cards. And if you could number them 1 through 5, 5 through 1, it'll help me compile the results for next week's video. And beyond those 19 cards, if there are some other Fergie Jenkins cards that you really like, feel free to put them in the comments as well, and I'll have them as honorable mentions in next week's video. Now, before I get into my top 5 favorite Fergie Jenkins cards, last week's video was on Tony Perez, and there were a good number of you who put in the comments letting me know which were your top 5 favorite cards of his. So I'm going to start off by going over the results of all of your comments from last week's video, see how your top 5 favorite Tony Perez cards match up with my top 5 favorite. Then I'll get into my top 5 favorite Fergie Jenkins cards. I'll turn the camera around and show off the few Fergie Jenkins cards I have in my collection. And then, of course, we'll wrap things up again by spinning the wheel of names to see which player will be the focus for next week's video. So let's get started. All right, for Tony Perez, you had 22 cards to choose from his Topps run from 1965 to 1986. And there were 7 of you who replied in the comments letting me know which were your top 5 favorite cards of his. And here are the top cards that were selected. His 1966 Topps card received 6 selections. And then there was a 5-way tie with his 1967 Topps, his 71 Topps, 72 Topps, 73 Topps, and 1977 Topps, all receiving 3 selections. Now, there were a good number of Tony Perez cards that no one selected as part of their top 5. His 1978 through 1986 Topps cards. Now, there were a few honorable mentions that you provided in the comments, starting off with his 1968 Topps 3D, the 1970 Topps National League RBI leaders with Willie McCovey and Ron Santo, and his 1971 Topps Super, and finally, the custom card done by when Topps had balls in the 1970 design, sort of an in-action pose shot there. All right, how did your top selections of Tony Perez cards match up with my top 5 favorite? Well, at number 5, you had his 1971 Topps card, which I had as my 3rd favorite. We were all in agreement that his 1972 Topps card is his 4th best card. In 3rd place, you had his 1967 Topps card, which I did not have in my top 5. And then the number 2 and number 1 spots were switched between your responses and what I had on my top 5. At number 2, you had his 1966 Topps card, which I had as my favorite. And then at number 1, in terms of the selections and votes, you had his 1977 Topps card as your favorite, which I had as my 2nd favorite. All right, let's get into Fergie Jenkins. Again, I had, and you have for the comments, 19 Topps cards to choose from. His 1966 rookie card through his 1984 Topps card. Now, I have to be a little honest, there aren't a whole lot of great looking, at least in my opinion, Fergie Jenkins cards. There's some really nice ones and a couple that sort of stand out. But at number 5, I decided to go with his 1967 Topps card. It's his first solo card. His 66 Topps rookie card is a dual player card. So this is his first individual card. Posed sort of follow through, semi follow through shot there, but generally like the 1967 Topps design. So I went with his 67 Topps card as my 5th favorite. And you notice in 1967, he's listed as Ferguson Jenkins. I think by 69, they have him listed as Fergie Jenkins on the front of the cards. At number 4, I went with his 1979 Topps card. Nothing necessarily special about it. I do like the color match with the red bottom border of Rangers there, but I just like the image there of Fergie Jenkins. It's a sort of a casual photo, not posed. It's just a candid shot of him sitting, kneeling in the dugout, it appears, and just a smile on his face there. I just like the image and the candid nature of that shot for his 1979 Topps card. At number 3, I went with his 1971 Topps card. Nothing special necessarily about the image. It's just a pose shot, but him looking sort of up and off to the side. You have the stadium in the background. These 71 Topps cards, when you can get a really nice solid black border, just makes a nice frame for the card and the image. And so overall, I think it's a pretty attractive Fergie Jenkins card. So I put that as my 3rd favorite. At number 2, I went with a little bit of a sentimental pick. Again, I love the 78 Topps set and design. Of course, here Fergie is playing with the Boston Red Sox, so that's another plus for me at least. Not the best image necessarily of Fergie Jenkins, but the color design, you have the yellow border, the red text for the Red Sox. He is in that mid to late 70s Boston uniform that I like. So I put his 78 Topps card at my number 2 spot. And my favorite, if I had to pick one, my favorite Fergie Jenkins card would have to be his 1975 Topps card. Really, other than possibly his 84 Topps card, it's the only in-action shot of Fergie Jenkins on all his base Topps cards. So while the color scheme doesn't necessarily work with the Rangers colors, sort of in a sense it does, maybe not the yellow, but still, love that action shot of him pitching. Really, again, on a base Topps card, that's the best in-action shot you're probably going to have. So that's why his 1975 Topps card is my favorite Fergie Jenkins card. All right, gonna turn the camera around now and show off. I have about 4 or 5 Fergie Jenkins cards in my collection. Well, I was wrong. I actually have 6 Fergie Jenkins cards in my collection. The oldest one is his 76 Topps card, shown here with the Texas Rangers. Nice palm trees in the background there. Must be a spring training photograph. There is the back. Then I have his 76 Topps traded. When he was traded to the Red Sox, Fergie brings fastball to Fenway. Talks about the trade there. Then I have his 77 Topps on the Red Sox. This one, for some reason, was hard for me to find even in a PSA 7 grade. Again, not so much worried about the number grade. I wanted a nice copy. Figured that, 77 Topps cards of Fergie Jenkins aren't going to be that expensive. So I wanted to, figured I could afford a nicer copy. But man, to try to find one well-centered, I think this one was a struggle for me. But ended up with a nice copy. Then I have his 78. That one's a beautiful example. Love my 78s. Then I have his 79. Yeah, just really like nice image there of Fergie Jenkins. And then finally, I have his 1980. Now, generally speaking, Fergie Jenkins cards are not that expensive. Obviously, you'll pay more for his rookie card if it's, in a higher condition. But I don't think any of his cards are, especially in the late 60s, any of the high number series cards, I don't believe. So putting together a Fergie Jenkins run of a pitcher, a consistent 20-game winner, over 3,000 strikeouts for his career, Hall of Famer. It's not going to cost you an arm and a leg to build a nice Fergie Jenkins run. But there are my Fergie Jenkins cards, so let's finish this video up by spinning the wheel of names and see what player gets selected. All right, 28 names remain on the wheel of names, so let's give it a spin. And next week's video is going to be on, which is it? Okay, it is going to be Phil Niekro, another pitcher that, at least in terms of a hobby, just seems to fall under the radar. But I think once you hear more about his background, his stats, you'll learn to appreciate Phil Niekro maybe a little bit more than you have in the past. It will be fun going through his cards and picking my top 5 favorite for next week. And final reminder here in the comments, let me know which are your top 5 favorite Fergie Jenkins cards. And with that, that's all I have for you. So until next time, thanks for watching.